Recently, I found out that the Washington State Flag Committee wants to change the design of the Washington State flag by, get this, removing George Washington's face. Now, at first it seems logical that the Washington State flag would have Washington's face. Hell, a lot of things in Washington have Washington's face, not just the flag, even the interstate signs. But the committee argues that, for one thing, the design makes the flag look too busy and cluttered. That's true. When it comes to flag design, it's best to keep things looking as simplistic and distinct as possible, to avoid flags end up looking too similar. The other thing is that George Washington didn't actually have a lot of cultural influence on the formation of Washington as a state. So to that effect, Washington State is going to be pairing with several groups of natives and other cultural representatives in the state to devise the state's new design. But what would I do? One thing I remember about the state of Washington is that it makes up 50% of what's known as the Salish Coast. This is an area that crosses the border of the US and Canada and includes most of the Puget Sound, Seattle, Washington, and Vancouver, British Columbia. Not to mention that there's a lot of heavy native influences that have recently become embraced by a number of Washingtonians who have started returning indigenous names to key landmarks. Think Mount Tahoma instead of Mount Rainier, or the Salish Sea rather than the Puget Sound. Now let's talk about the Sound, because the Puget Sound, or the Salish Sea, is what connects several key ports to the United States and Canada as well, such as the Port of Tacoma. The Port of Tacoma is one of the largest deep-water container ports in all of North America. It operates a 2,235-acre foreign trade zone with over 150 acres dedicated to business development and maritime transportation. This port has 5 major container terminals that are managed by the Northwest Seaport Alliance. They handle a variety of break bulk cargoes, including John Deere and Caterpillar equipment. One of their major exports is corn and also soybeans, given the presence of the grain terminal on Schuster Parkway. I think perhaps a design that honors the ports or the Salish Sea might be an excellent direction to go. There's also the concept of the indigenous influence of Washington. There are 29 federally recognized tribes in the state of Washington with an overall population of over 100,000 people. That ranks Washington within the top 10 states with the most native population, but still well below Texas at 4th and California at number 1. But that's kind of unfair to say, because those states are absolutely massive. California has the 4th strongest economy in the world, after all. They are literally helping carry us. It's no wonder they wanted Mr. Atlas himself for so long. So coming up with a design that represents all of the individual tribes might be challenging, but that's where I think color plays a huge role. 4 colors have been used as a commonality between the native populations of Washington State before it ever became Washington State: black, red, blue, and green. For the native tribes of the Northwest Coast, the inclusion of these colors is more than just an aesthetic choice. It serves as important as the form and function of every object that incorporates it. It's so iconic the entire coast is defined by these colors. The oldest of these are red and black. While there's no way of knowing exactly how far back the use of black goes, the color red, coming from red ochre, has been used for at least 100,000 years around the world, and documented on the West Coast for at least 4,000 years. Blue and green's origins remain a bit more ambiguous. Until 1990, for instance, no analysis of the green pigment existed, so it's hard to pinpoint how green was derived. It's still commonly thought to come from oxidized copper, the same thing that gives the Statue of Liberty its iconic green hue. Similarly, it was thought that blue was derived in this method as well, but more recent information shows that actually neither of them are derived from copper. Green comes from celadonite, an iron silicate material also called green earth, and the blue pigment comes from iron phosphate, or vivianite. Hey, that reminds me, I just got my hands on some vivianite crystals. These things are really cool because of the way vivianite forms. Vivianite is also known as corpse crystals due to being discovered on decomposing bodies. When a body decomposes, phosphate leaks out. In an iron-rich environment, like a body wearing a suit of armor, and left to rot, these crystals can grow in abundance, leading to the name corpse crystals. Now, Northwest Coast natives have a long-standing set of rules and traditions about design elements and color use. The Haida, Tlingit, and Shimshia, for instance, would use black as a primary field with red secondary fields. Tertiary fields are either left unpainted or are either blue or green, but never both in the same object. So then, should we stay away from using both in the flag? Well, at least I don't think so. Not that I'm an authority or anything. After all, each of these colors represents a different aspect of the Northwest Coast. Red is for life, war, protection, strength, and transformation. An important aspect of red ochre is honoring of the death of tribal life. So I think including red in the new Washington State flag would serve as a symbolism for the many lives lost, especially Native lives, in shaping the land into a state. Not to mention that red ochre was an important trade material among the tribes, which points back to the Salish Sea as an important influx of trade even now. Many ochre deposits are considered sacred, guarded by supernatural beings or gifted by spirits. Even today, red ochre remains an important part of the Salish culture. Black, being the oldest of these pigments, really helped shape some of the region's unique visual culture, usually derived from charcoal or graphite. Some tribes would also use blackened copper for clothing dyes or pottery, or even burned fish oil or seal oil for a thicker, shinier black. Black speaks to the spiritual power of the Northwest tribes and signifies not just the heavens, but also the Orca. Orca are probably the most powerful and important creatures among the Northwest tribes. Not just Tlingit and the Haida, but also Kwakwaka'wakw, Chinook, the Nuu-chah-nulth, and the Makah is still often seen as a guardian ancestor and a supernatural being deeply connected with the ocean, family, and the spirit world. Orcas symbolize loyalty and strong family bonds. In fact, tribal legends such as the story of Natislan, the potential chieftain, is stranded at sea by his brothers who sought to depose him. He's later guided to an island where he carves a totem that becomes the first orca or blackfish. He commands the orca to kill his brothers for their betrayal. Afterwards, the orca becomes the guardian for humanity. Many of these stories are handed down via oral tradition, so written accounts are hard to come by. But a common belief of the Nuu-chah-nulth people also holds that orcas are the embodiment of deceased chiefs. And one of Washington's most important cities, Seattle, is named for a prominent Suquamish and Duwamish leader, widely known and respected for his diplomacy, leadership, and his ability to unite indigenous tribes during the time of intense colonialization. Chief Seattle advocated for peace while also fighting to preserve his people's land and culture during the 1850s when American colonizers flooded the Salish Coast. He worked with territorial governor Isaac Stevens and signed the Treaty of Point Elliott in 1855, which ceded indigenous lands to the U.S. government in exchange for reservation land and fishing rights. These concessions, while controversial with many tribes, were also done as a way to avoid outright war that would have led to thousands more deaths. Do I agree with Seattle's decision? I can't say for sure. Maybe Bree would have a better answer since she's working on becoming a defense minister. Concessions like these often aren't usually received well by the people having lived with the repercussions, and conditions in reserved land have historically been seen as a negative. I think that utilizing native input in a flag design, we should also see an expansion of these lands either returned or that natives in the area should start having more say in how their area is utilized. Next we come to green and blue. Blue can be used to either represent sky or the water, with green representing evergreen forests, cedar trees, and a harmony with nature. Washington State is known as the Evergreen State and has been one of the primary states concerned with cutting greenhouse gas emissions and forwarding renewable energy, as well as to stop reliance on fossil fuels, which have shown to have a considerable impact on the health of the environment. Starting in the 1980s, it was actually required of all vehicles in Washington State to pass an emissions test before the vehicle registration could be renewed. Vehicles who didn't pass the check couldn't be allowed on the road until they were fixed. More recently, Washington passed the Clean Energy Transformation Act of 2019. This commits Washington to an electricity supply free of greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. This act mandates the removal of coal-fired generators as soon as this year, 2025, and requires all retail electricity sales to be carbon-free by 2030. Also, the CCA, or Climate Commitment Act, passed in 2021, established a cap and invest program targeting 95% reduction of emissions by 2050. This market-based approach requires large emitters to purchase allowances for their greenhouse gas emissions, with the total number of allowances decreasing annually to encourage reductions. The program has already generated over $2 billion for clean energy initiatives, transportation improvements, and climate adaptation measures. In November of 2024, Washington State voters upheld the Climate Commitment Act by defeating Initiative 2117, which sought to repeal the program. This decision reinforces the state's commitment to reducing carbon emissions and investing in renewable energy products. These initiatives and more demonstrate Washington's comprehensive transition toward a sustainable clean energy future and hopefully a continued connection with nature. Sunsets play a surprisingly important role in the state's identity as well. Locations like Ruby Beach, Cape Flattery, and San Juan Islands are famous for stunning sunset views, making them popular tourist locations. Sunsets over the Olympic Mountains of the Salish Sea and the Pacific Ocean, as well as the golden pink skies over Mount Tahoma and Seattle, create some of the most recognizable views in American culture. Among the Coast Salish, Makah, and other tribes view the setting sun as a passage between this world and the next. Some even believe the sun dies each night and travels to the spirit world before returning in the morning. The Kwakwaka'wakw and Tlingit tell stories of a raven stealing the sun, explaining why the sun disappears each night. The Haida and the Nuu-chah-nulth have legends of supernatural beings carrying the sun across the sky and then hiding it in the ocean. Certain burial sites were even aligned with the setting sun to symbolize a peaceful journey for the deceased, as the sun represented a guide for spirits into their next life, probably as orcas. So what sort of simplistic design could we derive from all this in mind? Obviously blue would be for the Salish Sea, while green could represent the land or ground as well as Washington's connection with nature. Red and black I'd put together not only to represent orcas and spirits, but an overall design to resemble the night sky and the setting sun, since the sun sets in the west. Arrange 4 bars of these colors in order and you have a remarkably simple design, kind of like a pride flag, with deep and rich symbolism behind every color that is important not only to tribal influence, but Washington's identity as a whole. What do you think? Shoot me a comment, leave a like, ring my bell, and subscribe for more content. I love looking for cultural connections, and I'd love to open a dialogue with anyone who'd like to help me understand even more what it all means. Patreon is our main hub for all things involved with Tales of Atonement, and our patron support helps us produce our episodes faster and with more consistency. But what's in it for you? From there you can find our Tales of Atonement Discord server, art, music, comics, as well as exclusive viewership for upcoming scripts. Supporting us on Patreon is what shows us we're part of a growing community of artists, actors, history buffs, and storytellers that have become fascinated with our characters these past couple of years. This is our passion project we've put our hearts and souls into over 20 years, and your support really helps keep that flame alive. Right now, a big thanks to Pammy Poo, Heinrich28, Shadow Fox, Charles Tam, Arya Gamari, Jace Morland, and Lunder Lumen. And of course, everyone who joins us each week. At the very least, I hope you'll like this video, subscribe, and ring my bell if it really resonated with you. And I'll see you again next week. Many a Mikkel, Maximako.